Hey, let anybody buy.
Hey, nice haircut. I had to pay to be here. Nice haircut. Nice bandana. Hey, hold up.
You're going to have to sit there and music off. Red!
Yo, Jack! Jack! Oh, yo! Yo, you been watching the rest of the development? Yeah! Dude, it's great. I know.
Oh, Pat. Oh, look at that. It's neat in the back.
I will arrange for a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Stephen Patek, to go ahead and give the opening prayer this morning.
Thank you, Colonel. May God look favorably upon all who are assembled here today to honor the many men and women who have served this great nation during the time of war. We also ask God to remember the brave men and women who made the supreme sacrifice protecting the liberties we value so dearly. As we honor their memory today, we ask that Almighty God remember them and help us to never forget who they were and what they accomplished. May God bless us all this day.
A member of Milford High School, Eric Miller, will now read Logan's address.
Headquarters, Grand Army of the Republic. General Orders Number 11, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. The 30th day of May 1868 is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, hamlet, and churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their hearts a barricade between our country and its foes? Their soldiers' lives were the revival of freedom, to a race in chains, and their deaths the tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and toils of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time, testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull, and other hands black, and other hearts cold, in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remain to us. Let appointed gather around their sacred remains, and garland the passionless mounds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us in this solemn presence renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among us. A sacred charge upon a nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept up from year to year while the survivor of the war remains, to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to call attention to this order and lend its friendly aid in bringing it to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therewith. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective. By order of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief.
And at this time, I would like to call upon the following people to stand and be recognized. Our Grand Marshal for this morning, Ralph Steeves. Great soldier. The Chairman of Selectmen, Bill Buckley. Selectman Dino DiBartolome. Selectman Attorney Brian Murray. State Representative John Fernandez. Senator Richard Moore is usually in attendance, but he can't be with us today because he alternates this day with other towns in this district. The Commander of Disabled American Vets, William Vincini. Commander of the Italian American Veterans, Eric Rossetti. Commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Lawrence Hughes. Chief of Police, Thomas O'Laughlin. Deputy Chief, Jim Herron. And Veterans Agent, John Pilla. At this time, I'd like to call upon Tim McDonough of the Italian American War Veterans, who would like to speak on behalf of our Grand Marshal, Ralph Steeves.
In January of 1943, a 20-year-old truck driver from Glenwood, Maine was drafted into the armed forces of the United States. Upon induction, he found out he'd be serving his country in the Army. And during basic training, he had read about a new form of soldier called the paratrooper. He found out that along with his regular pay, he'd also receive an extra $50 a month to jump out of perfectly good airplanes. That truck driver is our Grand Marshal today, Ralph Steeves. After basic training, he shuffled through paratrooper training bases along the eastern seaboard and ended up on a troop ship bound for England. Upon arriving in England, PFC Steeves found more training awaited. Troops and equipment had been massing in England for 2 years in preparation for an Allied invasion of Europe. Where and when it would happen was anyone's guess, until June 6, 1944, General Dwight Eisenhower gave the order to commence Operation Overlord, D-Day. At 10 o'clock that evening, PFC Steeves and over 13,000 other paratroopers of the 101st and 82nd Airborne Divisions boarded C-47 Skytrains and gliders bound for Normandy, France. His unit, the 501st Paratrooper Infantry Regiment, was responsible for capturing and securing exit rolls for troops that landed on Utah Beach. Ralph recalls looking out of the jump door while over the English Channel and seeing ships on fire. And as they closed in on Normandy, he could see and hear trace of fire all around his aircraft. Jumping from just about 500 feet in the air and weighed down by about 200 pounds of equipment, the ground came at him pretty fast. Ralph and the 501st were successful on their mission. They had captured all exit roads that allowed the soldiers on Utah Beach to move inland. And to give you an idea, out of the 5 beaches, Utah, there was about 200 casualties on Utah alone, and if you go to the other 4 beaches, it was anywhere between 6,000 and 3,000 men were killed, wounded, or missing in action. So the 501st definitely did their job that day. Over the past few months, Ralph had shared with me personal accounts of professional soldiering while he was in Normandy that are truly amazing. Some are incredibly funny, and many are not, but he and I will keep those between us and each other. Upon the capture of the Normandy Peninsula, Ralph and the 501st were shipped back to England. Again, more training would await them and prepare for Operation Market Garden in Holland. They parachuted into Holland with little resistance and the expectations of capturing bridges that crossed the River Rhine and into Germany. While achieving success initially, they began to take enemy artillery fire in sporadic skirmishes with German infantry. On September 25th, 1944, the day before his 21st birthday, P.F. Steeves' career as a paratrooper ended when he was hit by enemy sniper fire. He spent over the next year in several hospitals with doctors set on amputating his arm. Somehow, he talked every single doctor out of it. His last stop at hospitals was at Cushing in Framingham. While there, he became friends with a Milford man named Joe D'Recchia. Ralph had a car. Joe didn't. Joe had a girlfriend. And Ralph didn't. You know where this is going. On the weekends, they would give them some R&R from the hospital, and they would take trips to Milford to break up the boredom of the hospital. On one trip to Milford, Ralph was introduced to Dorothy Gandolfo. He courted her, and they married, and they raised 5 children right here in this town. He had a successful and rewarding career as an experimental machinist with Raytheon and General Electric. Among his decorations, which are numerous, include the Purple Heart, the Combat Infantryman's Badge, jump wings with 2 stars for combat jumps, the French Fourragère, the Orange Lanyard of Netherlands, 3 bronze stars, a Presidential Unit Citation for actions in Normandy, and the French Legion of Honor, arguably the French government's equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor. I'm going to introduce you to Ralph in a minute. He will get up, he'll wave, and he'll say thank you. Actually, he need not speak. He is a humble man of few words when it comes to talking about his wartime experiences. And actually, he need not speak about them at all. His actions and the actions of every other man and woman that have served our great nation speak volumes. For the past 237 years, their dedication and devotion to duty have provided an unparalleled blanket of freedom that is unmatched anywhere on this planet. Ladies and gentlemen, TFC Ralph Steeves.
This gentleman personifies everything that's good about the military. The men and women who serve for the last 10 years across the world deserve this kind of attention, and we welcome them home when they come. Be good to them, God give them peace, and let's take care of our veterans. Thank you for your service, Ralph. At this time, we would like to acknowledge and thank Amy Donahue, who coordinates the flagging of over 3,000 veteran grave sites over the Memorial Day weekends with the help of the lady and of the Boys and Girl Scouts of Milford, along with the parents and leaders, and Leslie Jacobs for her assistance with the various activities throughout the year. Let's give them a round of applause. If you're here, please stand. Don't be bashful. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Representative John Fernandez, who will speak to you.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Ralph, and to all the men and women who stand among us today and those who couldn't be here for your service to our country. Of course, today we're here on Memorial Day to say thank you to a very special group of men and women, those who have sacrificed their lives for our country. I was at the Stacy Memorial Day program, the Stacy School Memorial Day program on Friday, and as always, and as with all our school programs, it was a wonderful blend of poetry and music and readings that stretch back throughout the history of our country of memorials written and music written to honor those who have sacrificed their lives. And as I was sitting there, I was struck by a curiosity that perhaps some of you know the answer to, but I didn't, and I had to go looking for it. The question that came to my head was just, how many men and women are we talking about who have died in war, from the Revolutionary War through our current conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan? And I didn't know the answer. I had a number in my head, and to be honest with you, it was several million. When I went looking for the number, I found it was less. It's just under 1,200,000, and some of that number varies depending upon whether we include those who served in the Confederate Army during the Civil War. And I was surprised by the number being as small as it was, because I knew, at least correctly, that almost 500,000 died in the Civil War and about the same number in World War II, and I thought with all of the conflicts it would be much greater, and thank God it wasn't. But at the same time, knowing the unnatural order of things when a parent is forced to bury a child, that is a great deal of sadness for any parent who raises a child and just as they're turning to adulthood, turns them loose into the world in that teenage, 20-year-old age where we know most of these men and women lived. It's a lot of futures lived too early. And I was struck again by a quote that I mentioned at the police memorial a couple weeks ago that came from a movie I was watching, and as I sought out the quote, I realized that, or came to learn that it was something written by a graffiti street artist, very famous one. And the quote, very simply, is that a person dies twice. Once when they physically stop breathing, and once when the last person who cares for them speaks their name. And I'm thinking that for most of us, that second death, no matter what we consider our notoriety or contribution, will come sooner rather than later. We certainly hope our children and our grandchildren will remember us on birthdays and anniversaries and the like, but we know we will fade. Which brings me to the great simplicity of Memorial Day. Even though those men and women, that over a million men and women, died too young, they will never die the second death as long as we continue to do what we do here today, which is on Memorial Day at least once a year. Come to these events, look at the memorials and the black granite face around you. On one of them, a member of my family, a cousin of my mother, who died in battle in World War II. As long as we look at those memorials, as long as we do as Logan said and go to the grave sites and decorate those grave sites and read the names and say them with caring, then those men and women will never die the second death for the sacrifice they made for us in keeping freedom alive in this country and around the world. So please today take that moment again before you leave here or before the day is out to say thank you to the veterans among us, but in particular to those whose name appear on the memorial or on the gravestones. Thank you.
And now, Chairman of the Selectmen, Bill Buckley.
On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, Brian and Dino, we're honored to be among you veterans today. Ralph, that story was pretty compelling. There are far too many of those stories. During the Logan speech you heard earlier, it was appropriate that Colonel Logan thought to call out the widows and orphans of those that died. Certainly today we should think of those in our hearts and in our memories because they need as much and more than those that passed. Colonel Lopes made sure to think of the veterans and the returning veterans that are coming home, to make sure that they're cared for, and to mention those here today as well, and that's appropriate. As a son of a career soldier, I experienced military life on bases traveling across the globe. As a young man, I played sports and was fortunate to have soldiers who were coaches, mentors, and friends. As children, my fellow classmates and I experienced having parents on deployment and the worries that come with not knowing whether they're safe. We are grateful and honor the families of the soldiers who are serving today as well. They are all that stands between us and those that would like to wreak terror upon the world. We owe you, the families, and these soldiers a deep respect and gratitude. As a community and as a nation, we must demonstrate our respect by meeting our obligations to those that were lost and to the families that were fortunate enough to have those wounded warriors returning. For all that have lost loved ones in Afghanistan and Iraq, it's because of their sacrifice that America is more secure. They say to have courage to put yourself in harm's way. You must believe in something larger than yourself. The fallen patriots that we're talking about today did. They believed in God, country, family, and most certainly their fellow soldiers. Thank you all for being here today. God bless our veterans, our fallen, our warriors, and God bless America. Thank you.
I'd like to call upon Stephen Patek for our closing prayer.
Gracious God, protect all who serve and will serve our great nation. Remember those who have served and are here today. Remember all our brothers and sisters that are no longer with us. Provide comfort to the families of the men and women, our brothers and sisters, who have been called to arms. Keep strong and faithful to the ideals upon which our great nation was founded more than 200 years ago. And God bless the United States of
Yeah!
Yes, yes.
In concluding our program, I would like to have the Milford High School Band play a closing song. It's going to be followed by a three-gun salute from that area of the park, so be careful. And at the conclusion of the three-gun salute, we will have taps, and then that will end our program. And once again, thank you for both the participants and the spectators.
Okay, hut, hut.
Ha 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 ha!